Here's a fun industry fact. Teams don't usually need a generic game designer. Instead, they need someone to do things like balance game systems, write dialogue, or lay out game space. Complicating this further, the actual job titles for the people needed are not as standardized as other industries, such as film and television. So to avoid confusion here, we're going to be talking about 4 specific skill sets and not job titles. Now let's jump in. When making characters for a game, do you make sure they all have elaborate 11-page backstories? Do you have 2 unfinished novels and plans for 3 more? What about when you're planning campaigns? Have you mapped out all the content and written the histories of all major kingdoms, thought out multiple story arcs, and have hundreds of note cards with prominent NPC information ready to go? Then I think it's safe to say you might be a content designer. Content designers are game designers who focus on creating the story, lore, and often mission content in games. They have strong creative writing skills, but more importantly, they have the ability to take on the Herculean task of being creative consistently and on a schedule. Because you could be the most brilliant writer since George R.R. Martin, but if you can't deliver on a schedule, HBO ruins your story, and you get the idea. Typical responsibilities for a content designer include developing the game's high-concept story, history, and lore, creating quests and missions with the game's toolset, crafting NPCs and fleshing out their backstories, and writing dialogue, item descriptions, flavor text, etc. Also, in case you were wondering, dedicated video game writers are indeed a type of content designer. So on a CCG, for example, content designers spend a lot of time working on the overall lore of each set, and on the character of each individual card. They're the ones that transform a card's in-game effect into a distinct identity through theme, card name, art or animation requirements, and flavor text. For an RPG, content designers over-index on the creation of quests, NPCs, dialogue, and equipment. And for more narrative games, they're usually tasked with creating the story, plot and subplots, constructing dialogue trees, and filling out mission journals. But what if you thrive in places like Forkknife's creative mode, or enjoy teaching friends tips and tricks in games like Super Mario Maker and Little Big Planet? Maybe you've even dabbled a little bit with Source Engine games for their authoring tools and upload custom levels for the community. Then you, my friend, are probably a level designer. Level designers are the game designers who focus on conceptualizing play space and laying out environments optimized for the needs of the game. Most have technical art skills, although that's not always necessary. In fact, in some studios, level designers lay out the game's needs, and then an art team builds the in-game environments. But it's the level designer who focuses on the strategic, tactical, and gameplay aspects of the world they're building. Playing a shooter game? Well, it was the level designer who mapped out each area, clocked the sprint time to choke points, determined the amount of cover, set spawn locations, and carved out each sniper ledge and back alley shortcut. Or that platformer you like. Every jump, environmental hazard, spatial puzzle, and movement challenge were all planned by the level designer. And in MOBAs, a level designer created the map that dictates the flow of the game. Planned lanes, areas of engagement, gank routes, safe zones, dangerous jungle paths, base sieges, and contested areas. These are the types of things that level designers really get excited about. Though, what if what excites you about game design rests somewhere else? Do you give players in your RPG campaign multi-page house rule mechanic supplements? Did you learn combinatoric math to better understand Warhammer 40k's dice probability and craft a spreadsheet for your army to optimize weapons efficiency? Or make another spreadsheet analyzing weight versus heat weapon effectiveness for the Rogue Tech Battletech mod? Or another spreadsheet optimizing your bard's per level control spell choice sorted by concentration and save type? What? Really, Jeff? This is what you do for fun. All right, not gonna yuck your yum. Then you, like Jeff, are probably a systems designer. Systems designers are game designers who specialize in building and balancing systems and mechanics. They're the spreadsheet wizards who enjoy taking things apart, tinkering, and putting them back together. Most have strong math skills for balancing, and strong communication skills since they over-index on writing design documentation. In an RPG or looter shooter, systems designers build and balance the game's economy, combat, trade skills, monster statistics, treasure tables, class abilities, etc. And while they might not build the missions, encounters, quests, or equipment themselves, they're probably going to be the ones who balance them. In an RTS, systems designers balance the value of every unit, ability, building, and upgrade, and maintain the master spreadsheet showing how they all interact. Whereas in racing games, they determine the efficiency of every chassis, engine, tire, and other component, and in CCGs, they design new mechanics and balance every card. Truly, systems designers are the kings among all types of designers. No, Jeff, I'm not gonna keep doing this. We have to treat all of our children equally, okay? Great. Let's finish things off with experienced designers. Have you ever noticed when a rumbling controller perfectly replicates the idle of a car? Or tinkered for hours with your smartphone to get the exact right level of audio and tactile feedback? Maybe even modded a game just to play with car drift physics or weapons kick? Yeah, sounds like you might be an experience designer. Experience designers specialize in the responsiveness, feedback, and the general feel of a game's controls and of elements within them, like various weapons and vehicles. Also, it should be noted that dedicated experience designers are also the rarest type of designer, evolving from a development task into a recognized skill set as team sizes have expanded. For instance, take jumping in a platformer. An experience designer truly gets into the nitty-gritty of manufacturing that specific jumping experience, fine-tuning the initial upward angle and velocity, playing with mid-arc hang time, and tinkering with the rate and tilt of downward descent, all to better sell the fantasy that specific game is trying to convey. You know when the driving controls or momentum of a vehicle's response feels just right? Or how about when combat makes you feel like a finely choreographed crime fighter? Or even when just your avatar's movement through the game's environment is so amazing that it steals the show? These are all great examples of experience design at work.